The truth is uncomfortable. Most people who call themselves poor were never taught how to get rich. They were taught how to survive. Those are two different things. And the difference between the two is the reason 98% of the world lives paycheck to paycheck, while a small few quietly build real wealth. Jim Rohn said it plainly. He said the few who win are not smarter, they are not luckier. They follow a different set of rules. Most people never hear those rules because the people who love them the most, parents, teachers, friends, government, books, podcasts, all teach the survival rules instead. They mean well. They really do, but they were wrong. This is not a hustle video. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is a blueprint, 6 rules, not 5, not 7, 6. Because 6 is the actual number of load-bearing pillars that hold up a real life of wealth in the real world. 5 is too few. The pillars collapse. 7 is too many. The mind gives up before it starts. 6 sits exactly at the boundary where discipline meets imagination. So the blueprint is 6 rules. Some of this will hurt. Some of it will directly contradict what your mother told you, what your father modeled for you, what your favorite teacher drilled into your head. If you cannot handle being wrong for the next 30 minutes, leave now. There is no offense. The video will continue, but it will not help you if you are not ready to be wrong. It happens in small back offices of family businesses in Tulsa and Tampa and Cologne and Manila and Lahore and Birmingham. It happens in janitor closets of office buildings in Sao Paulo and Cleveland and Lisbon. It happens in quiet garages of quiet people who nobody notices. And that is the point. The rules of wealth are not loud. They are quiet. They are small. They are daily. And the few who follow them almost never brag about it. Let me tell you about a person. Here is the math, because the math is the only honest teacher in this room. If you earn $60,000 a year, spend $60,000 a year, and invest exactly zero of it for 40 years, you will retire with $0 of net worth. That is not a guess. That is math. The survival model has a hard ceiling at 0. The wealth model starts with a different input. The first rule we will call the skill stack. Pillar 1, the skill stack. Jim Rohn said, "Don't wish it was easier, wish you were better." Notice that. He did not say wish for a raise. He did not say wish for a better economy. He wished to be better. That is a different kind of wish. That is a wish you control. Let me tell you about a person I will call the stoic craftsman. He was a draftsman in a small structural engineering firm outside Akron. His father was a draftsman. His grandfather was a draftsman. He earned $48,000 a year for 9 years. He did not earn more because he knew the same single skill his father and grandfather knew. Then he made one quiet decision. He learned AutoCAD on weekends at the local library. He learned building code from the county clerk's old manuals. He learned how to talk to general contractors. That is 3 intersecting skills stacked on top of one base skill. Within 22 months, his income went from $48,000 to $96,000 because he became the only person in a 40-mile radius who could convert old drawings into permatredi digital plans. He retired at 54. The savings plus the pension were massive. Here is the math, because the math is the only honest teacher in this room. The skill stack compounds like interest. One skill pays the bills. 2 intersecting skills double the price you can charge. 3 intersecting skills quadruple it. The few know this. They stack skills for a decade before they stack income. Pillar 2, the quiet compounder. Jim Rohn said compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who does not pays it. Let that land. Now think about what you actually do with the first dollars you make. Most people spend them. They upgrade the apartment. They buy the better car. They take the bigger trip. The few do something else. They buy assets. Assets are things that pay you every month even if you do not work. Stocks can pay dividends. Rental houses can pay rent. Small businesses can pay profits. Index funds can grow quietly for 40 years. The math: $300 a month invested in a broad index fund that compounds at 10% annually for 40 years becomes $1,172,000. $300 a month, not 1,000, not 5,000, $300, $25 a day. The expense you skip today buys your freedom 30 years from now. Let me tell you about a person I will call the anonymous saver. She was a nighttime custodian at a community college in Tallahassee. She worked 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. for $19 an hour. Her take-home was about $2,400 a month. She lived in a small apartment. She drove a 2006 Corolla with 212,000 miles on it. She ate rice and beans and eggs most nights, and she invested $250 every single month into a boring index fund. She did this for 31 years. She retired at 62 with $1,048,000. Nobody noticed. Nobody cheered. Nobody made a podcast about her. The math did its job slowly. Notice that. The few build wealth in silence because the math does not require applause. Pillar 3: the income versus living gap. Jim Rohn said, "Income is not the problem. The problem is that for most people income arrives in lumps and expenses arrive in rivers. If you earn $4,000 a month but spend $4,600 a month, your income does not matter. You are losing money." The few flip this. They pay themselves first. They move 10 to 20% of every dollar before any other dollar moves. The rest of the budget has to live on less. This is the discipline gap. The few understand that a raise, a bonus, a tax refund, none of those fix a gap. Only a margin fixes a gap. Let me tell you about a person I will call the self-made immigrant. He arrived in Toronto from Manila at 26. His English was limited. He worked nights stocking shelves at a grocery store for $13 an hour. He lived with 4 cousins in a basement. His take-home was $2,200 a month. He cut his living expenses down to $1,400 a month. He sent $800 home at first. Then he started keeping $100 of that $800 for himself and investing it. By 31, he had saved almost $6,000. He used it as a down payment to buy a failing small grocery store in a neighborhood nobody else wanted. He ran it for 2 years. He bought a second failing store at 34, a third at 39, a fourth at 46. By 48, he owned 4 stores. He sold 2 of them at 52 and retired a multimillionaire. The math: 2% of his income, held for 26 years, became 4 small businesses, became 2 sold businesses, became the kind of wealth his survival pattern friends will never see. The few understand that small consistent margins multiplied across decades create fortunes that big raises cannot. Pillar 4: the lifestyle freeze. Jim Rohn said, "When your income goes up, your outgo goes up faster. That is the trap. A raise is a trap unless your lifestyle stays flat. The minute you upgrade the apartment when you get the raise, you have baked survival into your raise. You did not get a raise. You got a more expensive cage." The few do the opposite. They freeze lifestyle on every raise. They keep the old apartment for 2 more years. They keep the old car for 1 more year. They let the difference accumulate. Here is the math, because the math is the only honest teacher in this room. A person who earns $80,000 and lives on $40,000 a year for 10 years and invests the other $40,000 will retire with more money than a person who earns $150,000, spends $145,000 a year, and invests $5,000. The first one lives well because their spending is below the gap. The second one earns more and stays stuck because their spending erased the income. Let me tell you about a person I will call the stoic craftsman again, this time a barber in Memphis. He earned $60,000 a year for 22 years. He lived on $32,000 a year. He drove a 2001 pickup truck until it could not pass inspection. He invested the rest. He retired at 56 with $1.8 million in a brokerage account and a paid-off house. His friends who earned more spent more and ended up with nothing. Notice that. The few freeze lifestyle so that compounding can do its work without being taxed away by inflation of personal taste. Pillar 5, the soldier test. Jim Rohn said life is like a river. Most people sit by the river and watch. They complain about the weather. They blame the river. The few jump in and learn to swim. Hardship is not the enemy. Comfort is, because comfort kills the practice of skill building. If you are comfortable, you stop studying. You stop practicing. You stop sharpening. Comfort is the slow tax on capability. The few seek out a daily hard thing. They read for an hour a day. They code for an hour a day. They walk 5 miles a day when nobody asks them to. They save $40 a day when nobody rewards them. They build the muscle of voluntary hardship. Voluntary hardship becomes emergency resilience the day life breaks. Let me tell you about a person I will call the stoic craftsman, this time a mechanic in Edmonton. He was 19 years old. He worked in the same small shop for 6 years as an apprentice. He earned almost nothing. He spent his evenings reading service manuals the shop owner gave him. He spent his Saturday mornings cutting apart old engines in his garage. By 25, he was the most valuable mechanic in the city for diesel trucks. He opened his own shop at 28. He had 3 bays by 34. He is 46 now, and his net worth is about $4 million. The daily voluntary hardship is what made the difference. He chose to be uncomfortable when nobody forced him to. The few understand that the muscles of discipline are only built in the gym of voluntary discomfort. Pillar 6, the quiet network. Jim Rohn said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If your 5 closest people are broke, complain about money, and improvise their finances every month, you will breathe that air forever. You are not stuck because of your job. You are stuck because of your air." The few understand this. They quietly, slowly, over years, replace the 5, not through arguments, not through lectures, through subtle redirection of time. They move their time toward people who build, who save, who study, who practice. The few also build 1 or 2 mentors. They pay for the books of people they want to become. They sit at the feet of someone whose life they want to copy. Here is the math, because the math is the only honest teacher in this room. If your 5 closest people average a net worth of $40,000, your net worth is mathematically likely to land near $40,000 too, because decisions are contagious. If your 5 closest people average $1.5 million, your odds change dramatically, not because of magic, because of whom you overhear at coffee, because of whom you call when you do not know what to do, because of whom you watch when you are not even paying attention. The few understand they are a multiplier of 5. They pick the 5 carefully. Here is the great paradox. The blueprint is conceptually simple enough to fit on an index card. 6 pillars: skill stack, quiet compounding, the gap, the freeze, the soldier test, the quiet network. That is it, 6 sentences. And yet fewer than 1 in 50 people who hear this blueprint will actually execute it. Notice that. The blueprint is not the bottleneck. Execution is. Most people will nod. Most people will agree. Most people will tell their cousin about this video. Almost none will sign the contract at the end. This brings us to the contract, Take a piece of paper, not a screen, paper, pick up a pen, stand in front of a mirror, write today.